Hello and welcome to a train sim journey on the Thameslink network, this time with the Class 700 from Rainham in Kent to Luton. And in part 1 we'll take this as far as just short of St Pancras International. On Train Sim World as far as Dartford. Then utilising Nicholas's fantastic Steam Workshop route for Train Sim Classic to London Bridge. Before another route from the workshop to bring in the tunnel sections and the change to AC overhead electric power at Farringdon. So hello, welcome to Rainham in Kent. We're going to take this Thameslink service as far as St Pancras International in part 1. Part 2 will be to Luton. So let's get train set up. Sure why I got that rather strange camera angle by default, but let's get the master key on. We'll get ourselves into forward, and the AWS we'll put on as well. There we go.
TPWS and AWS operational.
There we go, so we'll get the doors open. Seems to be a lot leaving us. Seems to be many getting on. Well, maybe we've got some on as well. Okay, we can lock the doors. And away we go. So 25 miles an hour. Our limit out of Rainham. I'd like to get the windows open actually, just adds to the sound a little bit. Got that lovely sound mod available from the Train Sim community website. So we'll be taking this as far as Dartford in terms of Train Sim World 4, and then from Dartford we'll be going via Train Sim Classic and Nicholas's southeastern route, and then we'll go as far as St Pancras International on our first part of the route today. So we'll be calling at Gillingham, Chatham, Rochester, Strood, Higham, Gravesend, Northfleet, Swanscombe, Greenhive for Bluewater, Stonecross in Dartford, then Slade Green, Abbey Wood, Plumstead, Woolwich Arsenal, Charlton, Westcombe Park, Maze Hill, Greenwich, Deptford, London Bridge, London Blackfriars, City Thameslink, Farringdon and St Pancras International. We will actually need the Danny South Thameslink route as well, Brighton to London, to actually do the very latter stages. And then for part 2, I just want to do that on the Armstrong Powerhouse enhancement pack. We're getting the reminder for 60 coming up, but of course we're only just at 60, having stopped at Rainham. If we'd been driving a Javelin service, it would be a little bit of a different story. Of course, there's nice variety of stock as well, and again it feels pretty representative of what the route is in real life, and that's really what's so exciting about West Coast Main Line South coming out for Train Sim World 5, because, you know, we're going to have the Avanti West Coast Pendolino Class 390. We're going to have the 3772s on the Watford to East Croydon services. We're going to get the Aventras on the DC line, Watford Junction to London Euston, and the 350s on the London North Western services as well. I mean, some people criticise the sounds on Train Sim World, but there's just some things that I think are absolutely marvellous. I mean, like that. There is a variety. I can't remember how many. There's an absolute load of different track joint sounds, and it's random. And that's kind of representative of what you get in real life, because you don't get the same, exactly the same sound as you go over every point. So Gillingham is our first stop. It's just good to see a busy scene as well. Might help if we get some lights on this train though, by the way. Little things like that that tells you that's why I would never make a real driver. But I suppose it's very much routine, and I mean, you listen to Dale Charman on his fabulous Piccadilly line runs, and he, you know, very much the routine, and he talks you through it extremely well. I do like driving this Class 700, I have to say. It's both easy to drive and the sounds on it are amazing. So Chatham, the next stop. We've got this little section of Medway town stations which are very close together. before we go over the river itself. Meanwhile, I'm speeding massively. I should be going down to 30. Quite difficult to actually do a kind of an outside view of some of the stuff around here because of the stations coming up quite frequently. This is probably one of the slower Thameslink services as well. This is somewhere we can actually safely have a look at the outside view. If there's one thing I'd love Dovetail Games to actually change, and I've got a suspicion it will be no different in Train Sim World 5, and that's the way the camera just jumps about like that. It's a little bit on the irritating side. And we've got a full minute before we're due away yet. I mean, the one thing I can be quite sure of is that when Train Sim World 5 comes around, I'll still want to do these mix and match services because, again, you're doing a Vanti West Coast service as far as Milton Keynes Central, but carry it on. You can take it on to Birmingham New Street or Wolverhampton, or carry on further up the West Coast main line as well. Or with the London North Western ones, I mean, there's already a scenario set up on Alan Thompson for Milton Keynes. I think it's to Birmingham New Street by the new Northampton Loop. I don't think it's authentic to actually put full power in like that as I've just done. I think you kind of do it for the first few miles. Otherwise you get just a little bit as though it's kind of, you're flying off the seat of your pants a little bit. So we must kind of bear in mind we're 30 mile an hour into Rochester. This, of course, is the old Rochester station. Again, we're on a downhill gradient. We have to just keep an eye on that speed, try and make sure we don't go over the 30. bit premature there, really, but we'll let ourselves off with that one. Very chunky looking units, I always think. I do like the old wheel flange as well. So we have to be a tad careful at this point because we've got the reduction down to 20 and then down to 15. Got the sharp bends as we go to Strood. We're also on a quite steeply, very steeply downhill gradient, in fact. Very rare. I tend to change the time of the year. It's quite nice. I mean, sometimes it's nice in the winter to do a summer time run, but it's also quite nice to think that you're doing weather that's reasonably prototypical for the time of the year. And okay, I've done it so that it's going to stay dry. I always find if you set the dynamic weather, then you have a tendency it'll be dry for the first 20 minutes or so, and then it's virtually guaranteed it'll be raining and we'll probably have a storm brewing. Movement to those cars looked a bit on the slidey sound side, isn't it, going round the corner? There was criticism when the 700 was first brought out for Trains and World that there wasn't a timetable laid on for the London-Brighton route. There still is, but you can download one. I think it's the Train Sim Czech community, something like that. If you kind of search Train Sim mods Czech, then it'll bring up what you need. And that does add them in, and that's quite a nice run as well. You can do sort of Brighton to East Croydon. Higham the next stop. So it's about, I mean, roughly about 90 minutes, perhaps a bit beyond, because I think that's as far as London Bridge, but it's pretty much half and half our journey today between Train Sim World 4 and Train Sim Classic. Well, it's just another complete Thameslink route that we can do as well, and that wasn't possible until the Nicholas extension. So very much looking forward to doing that, because I did that video to Slade Green from Cannon Street, but I've never done a Thameslink one over that section. I do have to say I've been extremely excited with all the Train Sim World 5 news coming out, and there's such a lot of stuff. I thought Train Sim World 4 announcements a little bit on the underwhelming side, really. Last year, you know, I was excited about the East Coast Main Line, but it was kind of a boring section. Still think it is, really. But this time around, wow, they've really pushed the boat out, you know, in terms of British content as well. I mean, yes, there's some non-British content, but the idea of West Coast Main Line South, we've got this Welsh commuter thing around the valleys, around Cardiff a little bit, which sounds absolutely fascinating. The remastered Great Western as well, which is very much in need of doing. And not forgetting Alan Thompson simulation is, well, I'm saying not forgetting Alan Thompson sim as well. There's a suggestion with that photo that it might possibly be crew to Manchester Piccadilly and have the airport branch in. All we know is it's 33 miles. It's possible. It's possible with the catenary in the building that's been shown, but hard to know. Apparently it'll be a couple of months before we know for sure. And one of the biggest announcements as well was Just Trains with their Preston to Carlisle with the West Coast Main Line over Shap with a Class 87 Oh, that's going to be some run. And putting in the Morecambe branch as well. Southeastern have obviously got a unit on loan from Transpennine Express today. I must find a way, and okay, I suppose once we've got Trainsim World 5, I'll have new folders, so it won't be a problem initially, but I must start to kind of keep a folder of some of the mods so that they don't crop up randomly. That's something I'd love to be able to find a way round, because I always forget. And you do see odd looking liveries cropping up on these different routes otherwise. But very much like a kid in a sweet shop. Christmas Day, really, with the announcements this week. But it's very exciting times. Oh, and of course the other thing as well was the 5 Circle. I mean, we know it's coming, but the Leven branch as well, and kind of interested to hear the issues in terms of developing that from Rivik Games, because of course even Google Earth hasn't got it represented yet. So they organised a flight to get some photos and presumably some video as well as they went over. Oh, we're entering that lovely period in the evening where suddenly the track looks golden. Remember once coming on the Cambrian coastline from Pwllheli through to Machynlleth, and then that bit around Abu Dhabi by the estuary and the sea at this time of the night, the sun glistening on a kind of a late summer's evening, and absolutely beautiful. So Gravesend is next. I've had not a massive inclination to actually do these Thameslink services on this route as just to Dartford, because it kind of feels a bit pointless unless you can do the whole run. So very much looking forward to doing the next section when we get to Dartford. I still think for all the advances Trainsim World, there is still quite a bit of mileage with Trainsim Classic yet. But I love the flexibility of this Trainsim World with this 24-hour timetable and just select any train you want. Yeah, so that AWS reminder there was for the fact that we got the 30 coming up just before Gravesend Station. Right, so it's kind of beyond the signal, isn't it? So we now need to slow down to 30, go through these arches. Very responsive, the power handle button on this thing. And I'm using the power brake controller, which is a brilliant piece of kit and does make you feel as though you're sitting operating a real train. I think that's probably a Victoria train on our left. Actually, we might be able to get a view on that. Let's just see. Should have the name on the front, I think. Oh, not in service, it says. Well, that person there is suspended in thin air a bit. That's another thing that they could do is sorting out. I bet they won't. Passengers. I mean, you've got a little section there, and they're having a little fight with each other. Little bugs like that, a little bit on the irritating side. This is platform 0 at Gravesend, so... Charing Cross in actual fact, the 1735 to Charing Cross. So Northfleet is there. I mean, that's quite a run I'd like to do sometime. Gravesend to Charing Cross. I've got a feeling there wouldn't be much point in doing it massively on Train Sim World. I'll have to check on the stopping patterns on that one. And hopefully Nicholas, who's done a brilliant job, he's not even from the UK, but he's done a brilliant job of the Train Sim Classic route that's on the Steam workshop. But I think he's still doing bits to it. I haven't had a look at his entry on the Dovetail Games forums for a while. I must have a look at that, see if he's working on a new section. There's definitely people that talk, and I'm sure with great plans and everything else, about route building, but he's one of those ones that, you know, he just posts a few updates here and there, but essentially he just sets about doing them. But you've got to have a lot of free time on your hands, in all honesty, to do these routes. It's no easy task. I only just about find enough time to actually drive them, let alone do too much by way of creation. So Northfleet is our next stop. So I think it's at this point, yeah, you go on left to the left, and that's where you go off to Ebbsfleet International for the high-speed 1 line into St Pancras. I mean, we are eventually ourselves going to St Pancras, but we're kind of going the long-winded way. Of the UFO sounds. Yeah, so we are 700,029. I must make a note of that actually, so that when we carry on our journey on Train Sim Classic, I'll try and make sure that we at least have the same unit. I'll perhaps have a look at the back as well at some point as well. Yeah, doing it again with that acceleration, just remembering, I think, for the first, I don't know, up to 5-6 miles an hour, I think pretty much you want to be about 30-odd% and then go up to full power. I mean, I know when the Goblin line came out for the Class 710 for the Aventura, there's a couple of bits from an actual real overground driver who drives them in real life, who's comparing it and talking about the fact it's pretty realistic and talking about the things that aren't quite perfect. So we're not going to go too fast here because we've got Swanscombe Station coming into view. Yeah, it should be all right there. So 100%. One of these days I'll remember. So Green Hive for Blue Water. And again, these stations coming about thick and fast. I mean, certainly wouldn't recommend if you were getting on the train from Rainham okay, you're pretty much obligated to do some of the route, but you could change at Strood, for example, and get a much faster train towards Luton by taking the southeastern high speed. Of course, there's differences in the cost, though. It's kind of more expensive to do a run on the high-speed trains. So it depends how much time you've got, and sometimes it's nice to have a leisurely train journey. Now, if we get any standing passengers, they've probably been lurching about all over the place there. That was a bit too sharp, that brake application, but we've made it. That's the important thing. Don't think I'd be getting any great awards for driving in that respect. So whilst we're here, right, okay, so it's still 700,029. I wasn't sure whether we'd have a different unit at the other end, but it is basically just one unit, isn't it? So here we go. Stone Crossing is next. It's stuff like this where you really do need to know the exact kind of braking points and exactly at what speed you can get up to, because that's where you could lose yourself easily 20-30 seconds every time. I mean, I'll be interested with the Euston Watford Junction working with the overground. I think the line speed never really goes much above 40 odd miles an hour, so pretty much you should be able to drive it visually by not really applying the brakes until you get sight of the platforms. I mean, if they could sort the passengers out properly and make them behave not as though they're completely drunk all the time, then it would be great if we could actually kind of see a proper like rush hour feel where you get to the platform and there is a platform absolutely thronged with passengers, but Having said that, I would much prefer the principle of a train game that works, and if it kind of means that you're not going to get as many people as you would do in reality, but the game actually runs smoothly, then that's kind of much more of a preference. So Dartford next, and that will be the end of the run on Train Sim World, but not to worry, we will be carrying on the run through the next section on Train Sim Classic. We've got quite a steepish up little uphill section here, so I mean we're going at full power, but it was only just about getting us up towards the 50. It's pointless going over the 50 because we've got the 50 mark coming up here. And then we come down to 40. Yeah, very exciting, the developments for Train Sim World 5, and of course there'll be lots of other things that will be worked on as well that they haven't talked about yet. Keep an eye on these signals because no, I think the 2 marker, that's all right. I think we are literally signalled into the platform now. .465 is a good fun unit to drive as well. A few waiting here. Plenty of commuters having worked the day in the office or the factories in and around Dartford. Be interested to see. I'll set it to summer for the next section, but I bet it won't look quite as beautiful as that scene does. So there we are. So that's the end of Train Sim World 4 for this route, and we'll take things on now on Train Sim Classic to continue our run towards London. Okay, so let's close the doors, switch the DRA off, and we should be just about ready to go. Let's check. Yeah, we are on. Just having a slight bit of trouble with the PBC controller. It does happen occasionally. Now we are on Train Sim Classic now for this, I would say, is the more interesting part of the run actually, to London Bridge. This is the fabulous extension, free for download from the Steam Workshop from Nicholas. We need the Chatham and Medway Valley line, I think I'm right in saying, or whatever it's called, probably the Dover and Ramsgate version. But it does give full details when you look at the download, but it certainly adds in a lot of useful miles. I did do a YouTube video from Cannon Street to Slade Green, which is our next stop. Of course, in reality, I think they do a circular run, London Cannon Street to Cannon Street via Slade Green. I think they go back on a little bit of the line that isn't represented at the moment. It still looks pretty fabulous, doesn't it, on this on Train Sim Classic. And I have to say, I think the looks are improved as well with the Armstrong Powerhouse vegetation pack as well. It's a nice looking addition. I'm not just trying to show off all the wares. Well, I am really, because it does make it look better, but it all costs and it takes a lot of time to build up, particularly if you're fairly new to all this. But it's just, all I can say is, if you're fairly new to it, just do it slowly, just build your collection up slowly. I mean, I've been doing it, I suppose, since, was it 2007, I think, when Rail Simulator first came out. Still in massive awe, really, for the way that this route's been built. I think Nicholas isn't even from the UK, and I think he's just done this using the cab view videos, using Google Earth as well, presumably. But he's just got a real feel for it, and this is a very interesting section into the heart of London. Now you might have noticed we've added 4 carriages as well to the unit since we arrived into Dartford. I suppose I could have changed that, but it was just easier using these scenarios that were available. And I presume they are 12-car runs in real life. Just something about these 700s, I can't quite explain it, but they just have a nice look about them. And I think the fact that you have this lovely full cab view must be excellent to drive them in real life. None of all that sort of corridor connection that you very often get on third rail stop. But I was originally going to do part 2, or the Train Sim Classic, this section of the route, using a scenario from Cranky Butt that was on a pack on Alan Thompson simulation, but I just spotted this one on the Train Sim community site. I think it was by Emily, so I've just kind of modified the unit to have at least the same number as the one we had in part 1. But it just made a lot more sense because she's put up parts 1, 2, 3 and 4, and it kind of fitted in nicely with the way I wanted to put this together. So we'll take this as far as London Bridge, and then the next part quickly load up and do the bit in towards St Pancras. So we've got Abbey Wood next. We will see the southeastern mod HS1 overhead gantries, which is good to see. Oh, another point, by the way, I've actually downloaded a little pack, so it adds in the station names as well. That wasn't on the original workshop route, but there's a little extension for that on little patch. I think it's under assets, under trains and community, and it just adds in the station names as well. So we're kind of not all stations at this point, but I think probably beyond Abbey Wood we stop at most of the stations, not all of them, but most of them. Of course, Abbey Wood, very much the connection with the Elizabeth line. You take trains through to Heathrow and to Reading. Would be good to see Class 345 in the game. That, okay, it's only for a couple of miles till it branches off, but it would be nice to see that. And I think there's a plan for ATS to actually do a model of the 345 for use on the Gemma line from London Liverpool Street. And we saw a little snippet of a preview of that weeks ago now, but apparently they weren't quite satisfied with the model. And the other possibility is that maybe at some point DTG might bring out an Aventra based on the one that they used from Trains and World on the Goblin line for Train Sim Classic. So we'll have to pretty much go all the way down to the end of the platform. But again, excellently modelled. Thought it. Open the doors. There we go. Help if I press the right button, wouldn't it? mean, I've always said I'd love to see DLC with the Elizabeth line in. I mean, it's debatable whether that would be really exciting because, of course, a lot of it's automatic train operation. I think all the driver does in the tunnel section is just opens and shuts the doors. Now, there is an override facility there to then control it manually should it be needed. I suppose you could do it like that, but it would be a little bit boring to do it in automatic train operation mode. But an interesting line though, and I think many people would be interested to see an Elizabeth line run, particularly if it was from Shenfield or from here at Abbeywood, and maybe put in the Heathrow Airport extension. Whether the licence would be granted for the Heathrow Airport extension to be done accurately, I don't know. Going to Plumstead. Very smooth to control, this train. And I would imagine in real life a joy to drive. Pretty little things that make this so good. In these little, I don't even know what you call them, but these sort of gates that sort of fenced off at the end of the platforms with the steps going down. Very good place to stop it, was it? We just have to be a bit careful we don't get too carried away, partly because we've got a 20 come up. We're going to be a bit late for that, actually. Again, interesting station with the on the curve, and just such a depth of scenery. And you look at this station as well, and you can see the variety of you've got the walls, you've got different fencing. I'd love to know from people who really know this route well, just how accurate this is. I mean, it looks amazing to me. You've got even some lockers put in there. This is all kit bashed as well. No custom made buildings at all. Apart from obviously places like when we get to London Bridge, which was, of course, it's the original London Bridge, it's not the modern one. We've got quite a little underground section here It's a bit like the district line, the cut and cover thing, where basically it's just below ground level. We go through to Charlton next. Got a slow old section as well around here. And I'm guessing it's probably quicker to change at Abbeywood and get the Elizabeth line train. Presume it's quicker to get to central London, but you'd have to study the timetable for that for a bit more detail. In some of the dovetail game routes, I mean, I love the Chatham, sort of Dover, Ramsgate line that was done, but somehow you get the feeling with this section that Nicholas has done, the way he's put some of these assets in, he's used quite a variety of different assets. But plenty of effort put in. Trust me, I mean, I've tried laying a few buildings here and there on routes over the years, and I've changed the odd bits and pieces, but you can spend a couple of hours just changing a few buildings. So we go up to 50, but we've more or less immediately got Charlton then, so we won't be getting fully up to 50, that's for sure. Quite a fan of those 465s as well. And if you'd like me to do more videos on this route, let me know. I've certainly done that London Cannon Street out to Slade Green. I did do the Hastings run from Charing Cross some time ago. There's also the Blackfriars to Sevenoaks, which is quite an interesting run as well. I've not done a video with that one yet, but the one that goes by the amazingly named Bat and Bull. Too many passengers about for a peak time evening, but I suppose we are heading into London, as opposed to, I guess, this time of the evening a lot of the commuters will be heading away from London. Then passengers never really very realistic on Train Sim Classic. become quite a murky summer's evening at this point. And we're getting quite close to Westcombe Park. Yeah, great bonus to have the signs in. Just add something to it as well. There's a great variety of apartments used as well. I mean, sometimes I would say I've looked at real videos and compared it with the Dovetail Games efforts, and sometimes they've got better assets in the game than the ones they've used. Maze Hill's next. Just reminding myself, when I was looking at the description there, and of course the time's a bit off because I've slightly changed it so as it fits in with the train from part 1. Maze Hill next. Yeah, loving the detail, and I like how there you've got that fancy that's been done like that. I've not even seen that. I didn't even know that existed in Train Sim Classic. We're still on that slow section towards Greenwich. And again, it's less than a mile away. You can't imagine anywhere else other than London, in the UK anyway, to have stations so close to each other. Just would be considered superfluous, really, in other parts of the country. But I'm sure all these stations very much used and thriving. Clearly we're beginning to catch up something in front of us, but if we only get to kind of double yellow scenario, then it's a massive problem because we've constantly got the stops. Greenwich, famous the world over. From the timekeeping point of view, of course, Greenwich Mean Time. It's good to be able to do another full Thameslink run. Again, look at the scenes and the detail going on here. Fabulous. Again, up for quite some depth as well. Even if it is a little bit murky. So Deptford is next. So we get the 40 board there, but take a little bit of time to get the whole of the train through when you're going at 20 miles an hour. Amazes me that a real train driver would have that exact feel, would know exactly when the whole of the train was through it. So Deptford will be here before we know it. Quite moody, the weather pattern. We are on single, well, we're on double yellow, and you can see the single yellow ahead and then the red beyond that. We are in the kind of that pattern where we're only 3 miles away from London Bridge. Don't know if we mentioned anything in the briefing about, I can't remember, don't think it did. And I'm tempted to save the game when we get to this red signal, just in case we end up trying to go through it and then it turns out we shouldn't have done, because sometimes it'll give you the approval to pass and then you find that the reality is it's not good to go. It is a busy old section though, to be fair. Yeah, I think there is a train going off there, which I presume is the one that was blocking our path. Let's save it anyway, just in case. Now we've seen the signal up ahead clear to green, so I've got a feeling we should be passing this one. Oh no, denied it says, so hang on then. We will wait. Oh, actually, that one that went to green in front of us has gone back to red again. There's another Rainham service. Busy old time. There we got that green up ahead again. But again, there's a train taking a diverging line. So hopefully once that's out of the way, we might get the clearance. Wow, this is a busy old sequence. There we go. We've now got the green. I mean, there is always that panic with Train Sim Classic. Are the signals going to work? Are they going to behave themselves? But when they do, it's moments like that that make it a little bit magical, because that's exactly the sort of thing you see in real life. And, you know, I've watched quite a few of these southeastern services on YouTube with videos, and there are places where it seems to be timetabled in, but there's quite a wait sometimes. And as you know, coming to London Bridge is incredibly busy. The Thameslink train. Hopefully with that junction, we couldn't quite see it because of the murk, but we've got Millwall football ground, the new den represented, and it is included in the game with the proper custom build of it. So we're going to get greens all the way into London Bridge. Be nice to see a modern version of London Bridge. We've got the old version in this game. I mean, personally, I do like these old third rail routes around London, and I think it seemed as though they were a bit in fashion with Train Sim World, but you almost get the feeling that they were almost told off, and it was like, come on, do other parts of the country. No, Dovetail Games themselves are based in Chatham. I tell you what, if we got this in Train Sim World, what a timetable that'd be. Try to get all these services in. Yeah, I think we got the adverse AWS there, yeah, because of the 20 mile an hour and then the 15 coming in, although still about half a mile away from where we are. So I'm not exactly going to come down to 20 just yet. So the platform 6 marker above suggests we are routed into the station, although don't forget it says we're platform 5. Yeah, it's still saying 6. Oddly. I suspect that's just a quirk of the signalling. Still fascinating old station though, the old version of London Bridge. I mean, you look at that bit over there and this old historic walkway that you used to have going over. It had got some charm about it and existed for many, many years. I think the problem was it used to get incredibly crowded up there at peak times. Now you've got this very big, wide-ranging concourse. Plenty of space down below now. Took ages for them to rebuild it, mind. Right, so this is London Bridge. And then for the next part, we're going to take it on to St Pancras Thameslink. I'll have to get out the old AP manual as well, remind myself how to change over to the pantograph mode, AC mode. Okay, so let's take this through to St Pancras. Just a short little section this, London Blackfriars, City Thameslink, Farringdon. I mean, actually it says King's Cross Thameslink. Wonder if we've got this set in the wrong era.
You should do it.
Sure about that.
You sure it's...
Yeah, it's a very interesting section, this. Never realised this, a slight error with the route. And unfortunately, it's kind of behind the signal as well. Oh, it's all right. Tell you what, while we're here, there's an easy way of remedying that, you know. Get to the world editor. What do we need to do? Is there we are. But to be honest, not even sure we need it, do we? We keep it in like that. Yeah, it's better, I think. There, we've got a double yellow anyway, so we can carry on after we've done our little bit of route modifying. I mean, this, of course, is the Danny. Oh, we've got another one that's in the way here. You know, it never used to be like this.
A bit.
I mean, I have done a version of this route where I have changed some of the buildings around here because it's a little bit too generic for my liking. So this is a bi-directional line, I suspect. Tortuous, really, 15 miles an hour. That looks good though, doesn't it? And you are treated to some amazing sights. And I think of all the routes around London, I have to say, the bit where you go around here, London Bridge, either if you go into Blackfriars and beyond, or if you go into Cannon Street or Charing Cross, it's just incredible that these lines sort of weaved in right in the heart of the city. And then you've got Blackfriars Station itself, which is absolutely modelled really well, the modern version of it. There you are, some pools in the background. You've got a couple of terminus platforms on the left. Quite a
You can take that and take the stage going to not be into the big distance. So it's that.
almost worth, I was going to say the entrance fee, but you know what I mean, almost worth buying the DLC just for that shot alone. It's great thanks to, I think it's Danny, who works for DTG, who's merged all these routes together and made it possible to get the run through Farringdon and beyond onto the middle and main line. I mean, in this case, we go into Luton, but sometimes onto Bedford, and of course, there's another bit that goes off as well to Finsbury Park and the East Coast Main Line onto Cambridge. Quite an extensive network nowadays, the Thameslink services.
You got that time. Okay.
Try and fit the whole train into the station.
Don't.
I think again it's automatic train operation on these parts of the line in real life. So Farringdon is next, and change there, of course, for the Metropolitan line. Now, I'd love to see a scenario where we actually see a Met Line train coming through. I didn't look in the list of everything that you need to run this to see whether that's doable. I know we do have one the other way round on the Met Line where I think you can download a Met Line scenario from ATS where you do indeed get a Thameslink train passing through at Farringdon. But the key thing at Farringdon is we have to change over to AC mode. I suppose the point is the Met Line platforms are quite high up here, so you can go to the trouble of putting the Met Line train coming in and you barely see it really, would you? You should see it's up there. So first of all, doors open. Right, so this is what we need to do then. I've got the manual open, so ensure the reverser is in neutral. That's neutral. Move the power supply switch to off. Power supply, okay, off. It will illuminate to show that power is being lost. Excellent. Move the power mode switch to AC. It will start flashing. Wait till it solidly illuminates. Move the power supply switch to on. Will start flashing and the pantograph will raise. When the power supply switch stops flashing, you have successfully changed power mode. The power mode switch will extinguish once you start moving. Okay. Sounds good to me. And then, in case you don't believe me, let's have a look down the train. We should see, there we have it, there's the pantograph. Yeah, excellent. And in case you're wondering, by the way, you might have seen a brief glimpse of the desk where it says RLU. Well, that's partly, I think, because I've set this up as 700.025 just so that it matches the first part of the run. Oh yeah, we need to go back into forward again, don't we? Of course we do. Yeah, now we're in pantograph mode. Another thing I'm a bit curious about is the next stop is King's Cross Thameslink. Now, that didn't feature in Thameslink operation. I think it's gone over to being St Pancras International. And I've got a feeling, I don't think you have to have that in this game. Anyway, that's where it says we're stopping to. That's where we'll stop.
Okay. To number 2.
I think these platforms were disused at this time when this scenario was set. Which is why it's got that disused feel about it. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave it then for part 1. And join me for part 2 for our run through to Luton on this Thameslink service. Hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've enjoyed the video, right, okay, train ahead of you in St Pancras has cleared a platform overtime will be, right, okay, so we're not stopping here at a station stop. That explains it. Right, that's absolutely fair enough. So that's where we'll pick it up for the next part. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. And if you have enjoyed it, then please like and subscribe. I'd be really grateful if you could do that. And I'll try and have part 2 up for you for the full run to Luton, and we'll take in the new Armstrong Powerhouse enhancement pack for the Midland Main Line as well. And we've got all the signs on the M1 and stuff like that, and it's really upgraded from the original route. So until next time, for now, it's goodbye.